You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Well, that was something. I don't know if you want to call it a trade deadline, but at any rate, Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill here to break things down from the Maple Leafs perspective. Deadline over. It's now the stretch drive to the offseason. I was going to say the Stanley Cup playoffs, but that's not the case here. Presented by Bet365. It's a Leafs afternoon take. It's a Leafs trade deadline recap show. And yeah, I don't know much to say, Rosie. How about you?
So it wasn't a deadline. They moved 3 guys out, 2 that they definitely wanted to, threw in an extra one. I mean, I wish they were all for firsts, but they made moves. I mean, I was worried we were going to only move on Wah, and it was like, oh, Lord, what are we going to do now besides just try this thing again? Yeah. What do you call it? Underwhelming? What do you call it? Like, what are you feeling here? It's kind of what I thought. If really what saves it is that first rounder we got for a while. Without that, I think it would be like, good God, what's the future look like? But I think just at face value, we got a first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. I mean, obviously that's all he could get, man.
All right, Rose, you're going to have to carry things for a second here. I can't hear you, so I'm going to try to reconnect, but maybe just brush up on what the Maple Leafs did today. Obviously, Scott Laughton, Nicolas Waugh, Bob McMann out the door here, and just draft picks back for this team, right?
Yeah, so we just got draft picks. So 2027 first round to Colorado, 2027 second round, that's Seattle. 2026 fourth round to Seattle as well, 2026 fifth round to Colorado, and then that a third round pick goes to LA. It becomes a second if the Kings make the playoffs, and they are 3 points out right now from a wild card spot. So, I mean, yeah, first, second, third, fourth, fifth is what they get. And what's realistic? Can 2 of those guys end up on the Maple Leafs roster at some point in time? That's probably the over-under. Are any of them going to be factors? Or any of them going to be game makers? Or any of them going to be long-term hard-hitting players? I mean, obviously that first is the one that sticks out, but it's Colorado. It's not going to be a top 10 pick. But it's something. You needed to make moves. I mean, if nothing else, we had to move on from these guys. We had to have change for the sake of change. Now that the dust has settled, we know what we have. At least the cupboards have something to move in there. Maybe we move those around in the summertime to acquire different assets. It's the question marks are now going to begin for the Maple Leafs in where do they go from here?
Yeah, I'll be honest, and sorry I couldn't hear you off the top. Very deflating, I think, from the Maple Leafs perspective. Just catching Twitter as well. The trade's still trickling in. Nazem Kadri back to Colorado. There had been whispers that the Montreal Canadiens were involved in that conversation, but steering things back for the Maple Leafs. I think it was just like a fine deadline. Like, I don't know what I truly expected, but I also expected some guys that weren't like rentals to go, and it was pretty much business as expected. But I'm a bit disappointed. Like, I think we wanted something to latch on to from the Maple Leafs perspective, and sadly we didn't get it. I would say, and we talked about this, the return for Nicolas Waugh was outstanding. Aside from that, I think it's a pretty tough look, Rosie, when you give up a first and Nikita Grabenkin last year for Scott Laughton, and then this year you move forward a year and it's like a third round pick, as you mentioned, could become a second if the LA Kings make the Stanley Cup playoffs. They're just in a really, really tough position. And it's crazy how the free fall began and just how dark things look for this organization right now.
It is quick how things turned around and how fast they went south. I mean, yeah, when you play the hindsight game, what we needed to do to get what we wanted last year's deadline, it was shit or get off the pot. You need a right-handed defenseman. You need a grindy, experienced character type of guy who can be a utility guy throughout the lineup, they didn't really use him as that. I mean, I believe that he can play in the top 6. He can play on different lines, and I didn't realize that Berube, I mean, even through the free fall that they went through, Scott Laughton could not get moved around the lineup at all. Like, he didn't get a lick in the top 6, which is kind of mind-blowing when you consider how many times they tried to find chemistry, how many different guys they tried on different lines, how bad they were playing at certain times this season, and he doesn't get a lick. He was like oftentimes the only thing that we could latch onto as a positive, playing with some heart and some balls and some grit, doing the right things, having a little bit of intensity on his face, which is so lacking in this organization literally for 10 years. And this was the year to create that identity. That's why they went and got a Scott Laughton. That's why Craig Berube was hired. And I know you're not supposed to be there right now, but I can't help but just being so pissed off at these players for their lack of intensity this season. You saw when they played with it, and they were damn good. And they were supposed to be a good team. Maybe not a great team, and that was the debate. But anyone sitting here going, I told you guys these guys were going to miss the playoffs by a mile. Nobody thought that. And you're full of shit if you think that you were standing there predicting this season. And I think about all the games we watch where we're like, hello, did you know there was a fucking game tonight? Hello, did you know that you needed to do something to get back in this game? No, the terrible first periods, the terrible third periods, whatever, in every different way that they could botch it, they did. And what pisses me off right now is watching this team just disintegrate, which no one really talks about because it's honestly a good thing. Like, I mean, lose every goddamn one of them. See if we can get our pick back from Boston. That's where we're at. But it rubs me so wrong the way they are so comfortable playing this dog shit hockey. It's like they're just like, this is the life, boys. No one has to give a fuck. No one has to get worked up. No one has to bear down. And considering this was the year to create an identity, to get behind Craig Berube and to play a certain style, they went the complete opposite fucking direction. And now this thing is in shambles. I don't know who's at the helm. I don't know who's going to be. I don't know what direction they're going. I don't know what their plan is. And I have no idea what the future holds. So it's a little bit scary. But what needed to get done today, at the end of the day, I guess you could say got done. It's the best offers that were on the table. He waited for the 11th hour. That's all he could get. And again, that Waugh trade is kind of what makes this, I guess you could call a salvageable deadline.
Where's the pride? It has been so difficult to watch this team specifically following the Olympic break. And again, we're talking about a team that, Rosie, had momentum going into the break. They had back-to-back wins in Alberta. And I've been so disappointed, and that's just a tough word to use as a fan, so disappointed by the way this team has come out since the Olympic break. Like, they look so defeated and so finished, and they want nothing to do with their coach, and they're going through the motions. It's despicable. And I know people have reached out and said, like, how is Berube still there? If you're the Leafs, what's the point of firing Berube right now? Like, this is a death march. It's awful, but it's a death march. He is walking himself to the offseason where he's going to be fired. And again, this is on the players. It's just like sickening from that perspective. And everything you bring up, you live this dream, you played in this league, you live that life of being a Toronto Maple Leaf. And watching these guys play the last couple games specifically, but again, this has been a theme for the last decade. Where's the heart? Where's the soul? Where's the pride? Like it just, last night's game was tough to watch for me, man. I could not believe what I was watching. You're on Broadway, MSG, at the Garden, and that's the type of game you play. Sickening stuff.
To a team that's in shambles, that hasn't won in regulation at home since November, like ripe for the pickings. You're on a slide, an epic slide, and it's like they're comfortable. It's like they don't get embarrassed. They don't, like at the end of a game, sometimes, like, I just coach. I'm at a playoff tournament right now with U13s. And when the game is out of reach and there's like a minute left, I have to pull back on the reins because these kids just want to run around. They're pissed off. Yeah, they're melting down. Yeah, they're immature. Yeah, they don't have any experience, but they just want to run around and bury someone and just show some kind of pissed off attitude. They don't like it. They expected to win. They're mad that they didn't. And I have to pull back on the reins and remind everyone not to go get like suspended out there because they have piss and vinegar. These are kids who haven't even gone through puberty. And I just laugh because I'm like, I should have to teach these kids that, to like care and to want to go out there and to make something of it and not to quit and to play with some pride. But it's not. It's the National Hockey Leaguers who play for an Original Six historic franchise that many people consider kind of the center of the hockey universe, and they couldn't even be bothered all season long. I mean, start to finish. Coming out of the Olympic break, you have a chance to get into the playoffs. And once you get into the playoffs, I mean, there is a good team in there. We've seen it. Anything's up for grabs. You just got to dig deep for a bit. They do the opposite. They do the complete opposite. They're so comfortable getting their asses kicked. There's no character. There's no pride. And this team will get ripped apart. It will get torn down to the studs. They're going to see if they can salvage it for one season. It's not the time to move on and to totally tear the thing down and do a full rebuild right now. Everyone's stock is so low, and we have to figure some shit out, figure who's coaching, figure who's managing, figure what direction they have, get their ducks in a row. But this thing's going to get torn down, and rightfully so. No matter how good how talented those star players are that everyone's in love with, they just don't get the job done. That's all that matters. The regular season and the trophies, that's just studying for the test. No one gives a fuck if you get the answers right when you're studying. The playoffs is the test, and they fucking bomb the test every single time for a decade. And every single time it's time to play with some pride, and it's time to get pissed off, and it's time to show some emotion, and it's time to have the crowd at least be able to say, at least these guys got some piss and vinegar, and at least they go down swinging. I've never said that about this group. Not once. And take your pick at the example of that. They're endless. This is easy for me. There is a plethora of examples to prove my point. This isn't even a hot take. We've all seen it, but we're in love with these guys because they show up when it doesn't matter, and they have trophies and they have nice numbers. But again, the only thing that matters is the playoffs, and these guys can't even bother to try to get in the goddamn thing at this point, and now they're embarrassing and humiliating themselves. I just don't see any way out of this besides tearing it down at some point in the next probably 12, 15 months.
But Rosie, what about all those learning lessons? It reminds me a lot of many people in school where you cram for hours after hours, and then you get to the test and you still bomb it, because all those learning lessons over the years really hasn't attributed to much success come the Stanley Cup playoffs for this team. And now going the opposite direction. Again, if you're just tuning in, deadline finished, the Maple Leafs make 3 trades. They move 3 guys out: Nicolas Waugh, Bob McMann, Scott Laughton, a flurry of draft picks coming the other way. Speaking of which, producer Vic, thank you so much for putting up a poll here in the chat. How would you grade Brad Treliving's job at the deadline? A, B, C, D. Right now, D leading the way at 50%. Where would you stand on that question, Rosie?
A C, probably a C. And it's not, I mean, fuck, anyone talking or listening or getting on that poll, like, you have to realize the guy works the phone all the time. If there were better options, you think there was a better deal on the table that he just turned down because he'd rather go get a 5th rounder? Like, that's the best that was available. And I know some GMs have ways of seeming like they work magic and whatnot, and you can get on him about his signings and about his handlings with certain players and no trades and when you should have moved on, and everyone's got the luxury of hindsight right now. But we know he works the phones. We know he talks to everyone he can. You know, he waited. He tried to get teams to run out of time and make a panic move, but it wasn't the same market as it was last year. And that's the best he could get for it. Does that mean his job's secure? No. Does that mean I'm in love with the guy? No. But it is what it is. There was no other better offers. No contenders wanted Bobby McMann more. No contenders wanted these guys more. He got a first out of Nick Waugh. And I mean, I just, obviously that's the best that was out there. So, I mean, there's lots of things to talk about with this team and what's going on and what's happened. But as far as this deadline being mad at Tree, maybe he could have done something earlier, but I mean, again, hindsight, man, I give him a C. It's not bad. Again, that first rounder is kind of the saving grace, or else it would look pretty ugly. But you can't just manufacture a deal that isn't on the friggin' table.
I thought it was interesting, too. Apparently, the Nicolas Waugh trade fell in their laps. Imagine that didn't even hit. Imagine we're just sitting here and it's these 2 trades today. I am going to be even more more in a mood than I already am here on this Friday on deadline day. Our Super Chat charity partner is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and 3rd in the world. Got a couple Super Chats to get to. We'll start with our guy, Maxentius Decimus. A lot of angry GMs in the chat right now. You're so right on that front, Maxentius. Boy Soul writes in, Treliving is a new JFJ, and the ownership and president still seem to support him. Fire this guy today. And that seems to be a massive sentiment across the fan base regarding Brad Treliving, the job or lack thereof he's done today and yesterday and the preceding days leading up to this deadline. Just not enough, I think, for Leafs fans to feel happy. And I think a lot of Leafs fans too, Rosie, are just pissed about the process, pissed this team's in this position to begin with too.
Yeah, and rightfully so, man. Like, such a Leafy fall from grace, right? You know, and you know what? All the Mitch Marner people who said that this was going to make them considerably worse, sure. I mean, you've got legs to stand on. There's no question about it, but you can't tell me that one piece you pull out and the whole house of cards falls down. You bring in certain players to do certain things. You ask certain guys to take on certain roles, and I just don't understand how they refuse. You can talk about the systems and all that. Fine, maybe this system isn't the best one for this group. Okay. But as far as the buy-in and the give a shit meter and playing hard, like so many times they're flat and you're just yelling at the TV, where's your heartbeat? Find a fucking pulse, you guys. And they just don't. And the second period turns into the third and the horn goes and it's 5-2 and they just get off and they take their gear off and they go about their business. Like, it's just, again, when children playing this game play with more attitude and passion, I don't have time for it, man. And there is only one constant that has been around this organization for this long. It's the core group of guys. You've moved everyone else around. You've done the different coaches and stuff like that. I just fear that forever and always with these guys, they're going to fall short in these departments. You know, if they played with nothing but piss and vinegar and ran around and did that and they couldn't handle a puck and they had no skill, I would call it like it is and be like, we have too much meat on the team. You can't just run around with your head cut off and hit everything and play with passion and get pissed off and play with fire and win games every single time. It's a balance. But where they have been short every goddamn year is playing with a little bit of heart. And they have got different coaches and done the different things and tried to get it there. And forever and always with this core group, that is where you're going to fall short. And I don't understand how they magically think it's just going to be different. I thought the missing ingredient would have been getting Berube in there, having a little bit of accountability, letting these guys know when they're dog fucking it, having them be able to wake up, being able to dig deep and find some leadership with some of these guys. And that could be the missing ingredient to get them over the hump in those playoff series where they keep falling short. Now they quit on him, embarrass the hell out of themselves, have zero pride to speak of, don't seem to mind showing up to the rink looking like idiots and playing heartless and getting their asses kicked. And it just seems to not really resonate with them. So Berube's probably going to get fired. And who's going to come in to do anything different, to have them play in any different regard that would lead to better results? I just don't understand who that guy, like, it's not magic. The players have to commit to certain things and they won't. They just don't think they need to. It's just like everyone's seen those players before where it's like, I don't do that shit. I score the goals and that's kind of it. I do the high risk stuff. I put my points on the board when I need to. I get my cookies and my second apples and my empty netters and my numbers look good and my agent says good and I got my big fat contract. I don't do the gritty thing. I don't go hard. I don't play with passion. I'm just me. So like, leave me alone. This is what I do. And that's all we've seen for a decade, especially when it matters. And it just fucking burns my ass. Sorry to say, but I just really question with this same group going forward, especially where they're at now. How are they going to have success now?
This is what I'm calling on. They need severe roster surgery. Like, I'm not talking about the arthroscopic, like exploratory surgery. I'm talking about severe surgery where you're going to be down for a couple months, because I think to your point, how many coaches, how many GMs, how many supplementary pieces are they going to bring into this market and this team and say, this team's going to be different? There is one constant. We all know the elephants in the room, and they want to avoid that shit. And that's honestly what drives me insane. It's like, we all know, and I get it. We're not GMs ourselves, and I get the job's difficult. We're not inside that room. We have no clue what the hell is going on. But for me, over the last decade, there's been several constants within this team, and yet they keep running back to the well, year after year after year with the same guys. At some point in time, you got to understand and look in the mirror and be like, hey, I think I know what the issue is here.
Well, it's funny how, I've had that in the back of my mind for a while now. You go back to, where were you when this happened, when that happened? Think of the game sevens. Think of the lost series and the blown leads in series and the heartless, pathetic efforts in elimination games. And I'm just sitting here going, you're just not going to win with those types of dudes. You're just not. But, you can't say that. You'll get torn apart because, certain guys are they stand high on the totem pole and they're shiny and they're talented. And I get all that. And I know that you need that. And I don't want to move on from an Austin Matthews and get nothing in return and lose the trade and then just be, stuck with nothing. I don't want that. But I just wonder how we can keep forwarding on knowing what we know by moving some pieces around the bottom six and now that'll do it. They had pretty damn good teams that were able to challenge. They went and challenged the Florida Panthers. They got up on them. They forced a game seven. They did what they do. But at the end of the day, they came up short. And, they needed a DNA change. Why do you think the Leafs said all those things? Why do you think that was the mentality? Why do you think they did what they tried to do? Because that was clear to everyone what they were lacking. Unfortunately, the guys just dug their heels in and said, not happening. We are going to do the opposite of what you're asking us, and it's going to be fucking embarrassing for everyone who has anything to do with the organization. Frustrating, no doubt, but that sentiment is going to be louder. It's going to be ugly. They are not in a good place, and the future doesn't look very bright. There's no other way to spin it.
Yeah.
Who do you sign in the offseason? What is this magical trade you're going to make with a second and a third and a fifth? What are you going to do with that first that's that magical in the offseason? It's tough. We don't have any studs coming down the barrel. Danforth is coming up. Danford is coming up. Is he going to be ready in 2 years? It's bleak, man. And the only way to be in this position and get out of it is to rip the Band-Aid off and do what a lot of teams have been doing. And some of those teams in our division have done that. And you didn't make hay while the sun shone, while those teams were rebuilding and looking really young and really inexperienced and going through those growing pains. And now they're coming. And it is not getting any easier. Florida's going to refigure themselves out. They're not done. Tampa looks like one of the best teams in the world. Buffalo is coming. Montreal is coming. Detroit is coming. They're not even coming. They're already here, and they're already kicking your ass on a nightly basis because of how little pushback you have and how little character this team has. It drives me nuts. And everyone's going to get mad at me and, oh, fucking you, what do you know, you plug? What leg do you have to stand on? I have 10 years of track record. I have the receipts right in my hand. Here's the problems. Do you want to watch the tape again? Do you want to just go sit down and watch elimination games again and just watch the players? No one ever wins playing with that. And you've gotten to where you are right now because you keep trying to win with this group and you buy and you buy and you buy. And when you just keep buying shit, your wallet, it gets to where it's empty. And that's where we're at right now. You tried to do the best you could with this trade deadline. It is what it is. All the question marks now are where the hell do they go from here?
I'll be frank. We got to be inventive with the way we cover this team over the next 3 or 4 months because we never have had a year like this on this podcast where there's no playoff hockey. We should do live streams for the games where they didn't show up in the Stanley Cup playoffs, like all the elimination games, and just react to everything that happens. I think that'd be insanely. Yeah, I think it'd be great, man. Imagine.
I remember we were doing our watch parties and whatnot last year. Fuck,
yeah.
Very nervous before
alive,
the first couple of games against the big, bad Florida Panthers. Oh, my God, are we going to get embarrassed? Are we going to have any pushback? Are they going to run us out of the building? boom, Willie scores from that bad angle right away and
Yeah.
off to the races. We won game 1, like, holy shit, boys. Then we win game 2 and like some serious, is this the special stuff, And, fast forward to that game 5, and it's just like they have this mental block where they just refuse to be men and do what's necessary. They just look around and wait for it to happen, and they just hope. That's how I feel watching the Leafs all the time. They're just hoping. They're out there making plays. Hopers here, hopers there. I hope this. I hope we win. I hope that puck gets in. I hope that pass gets made. And other teams that you watch that are good, they know it's happening. They're making it happen. They take the bull by the horns and they make shit happen. And go watch elimination games again and tell me that I'm wrong. It's been a very clear pattern, and we've all seen it. And, game 7, sitting in the same place, looking around at each other after just this lifeless effort. Just one team just decided they were going to do it and threw the kitchen sink at the task at hand, and the other one just simply didn't bother to do so. And for that reason,
it's amazing to me. Like, it's amazing to me, even like when we started this podcast like 3.5 years ago, how gung ho you were for this, and you're like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Just wait." And now you move forward 3.5 years, and you understand exactly what I was trying to tell you, right?
Well, I mean, I already knew the woes of the Leafs. I wasn't as invested in it as you guys, but as far as, I knew Mitch, I knew Willie, I knew Austin, and like getting to really watch deeply and peel the layers back and see what they did. I mean, the measure of a man is what happens when you're facing adversity, right? Anyone can look good when things are good. And when things are easy, these guys look damn good. They're so talented. They have talent coming out of their ears. They got so many things going for them as far as their skill set. But I mean, do you know how many good players I've played with over the years who you've never even heard their name? Like stupidly talented players. But there's a lot more that goes into being a high quality hockey player than having talent. And these guys have so much talent that it oftentimes overshadows the other things that they're lacking. And again, I can just feel people getting mad because I'm criticizing Nylander or Matthews. But like, what leg do you have to stand on? This isn't the second time that they had a disappointing season. It's like the 8th and the 9th and the 10th. And like, what is this shit after the Olympics? You have a chance to get into the playoffs and you didn't even bother to show up like that. Like, tell me I'm wrong. That was their best effort? That wasn't their best effort. Those 3 games after the Olympic break, if you're telling me that was their best effort, then we got even more fucking problems. Then they're even worse than you're claiming they are. But that wasn't their best effort. I think that's obvious. It wasn't even close to their best effort. So why in the fuck can some veteran NHLers playing in that league for that franchise, why in the hell would they not give their best effort coming out of a break when you have a chance to get the organization into the playoffs where anything can happen? Explain that to me. Either it was their best effort or it wasn't. I think it's pretty obvious it fucking wasn't. And that's even more disgraceful than that being their best effort. Like, what leg do the people that don't want to have this conversation, what leg do you have to stand on after all the proof that we have on paper here? I just can't get positive, man.
I think accountability is just a big word I circle back to. There's just none of it with this organization right now. And it stems from the top with Keith Pelly to Brad Treliving. Craig Berube can do all he can, but I mean, he can't play the games. I mean, last time I checked, he's retired and can't play, but these guys are not executing. They're not playing any brand, any style, any urgency. It's just a bunch of guys out there, which is the most disheartening part about this. There's still 19 games left in this season, if you can believe it. In support of Sick Kids, Megan Walker, thank you so much for the super chat. Was homesick all day. What a snooze fest. Emotion aside, what do you actually think happened? No move on OEL is confusing based off what everyone said. I'm not shocked on the OEL front. I think the Maple Leafs had a price tag. It wasn't met, plain and simple. I don't think there's a rush to trade this guy. He's still got 2 years left at $3.5 million. It's something you can definitely revisit, I should say, in the offseason. You can revisit at the deadline next year. Like, he's probably going to have more value in the summer because more teams are going to be in it than out of it, the way, things wrapped up being with this year's deadline. And I think there's probably more opportunity in the summer. And it's not like he's going to fall off a cliff in the last 19 games. He's had a really good year, and I think that value will be extended into the offseason.
You hope so. I mean, it's just when you have time for the dust to settle and to look at OEL, and you're going to go, and you really compare his years up against each other, you're going to go, well, shit, this was a bit of an outlier this season, and it's fantastic and good on him. And hell, maybe he can do it again. And he plays a way that, just the way he skates, and there's no guarantee he's going to fall off the map by any stretch of the imagination, but just being of that age every year and every offseason and ramping up for training camp again, it doesn't get easier. It gets a lot harder. Yeah. And you get to the age that he's at about now, all of a sudden, sometimes it's just like, what the hell happened, man? Like, where is my fast twitch? Where is my reaction? Why do I not feel as coordinated as I did? Why am I not thinking the game like I did? And it just goes. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it's definitely a possibility. And I really hope that this year, a team that wants to win right now says we need a guy like him. He's got the pedigree. He's got the experience. He's having a hell of a year. Let's grab him. We're ready to move now. Here's your first round or whatever. Let's go. It didn't obviously happen. I think those teams either found their, they were looking for a right-handed D-man and they found it, or they didn't have first rounders to give, or they weren't sold on it or whatever. But I just worry that stock isn't going to be as high in the summer. I worry about that. And maybe we're going to keep him. I mean, he's certainly a serviceable guy. Someone has to play for the goddamn team next year, and he's still got term left on his contract that's super attractive. So it's not like we can't revisit this now. I just hope that while we need to make some serious moves, he would be involved, as I think he's clearly our most valuable asset. Honestly, I believe his wife is pregnant. I don't think he wanted to move out of here. And if you can't get the right, there is a human element involved in this. And these guys do have hearts, and an organization like the Toronto Maple Leafs do care about their players. It's not a complete meat market business where you don't give a shit about anybody. And if you don't get a good enough offer on the table, I'm not going to do that to this guy. I'm going to live for another day and see what happens into the future. I get it, but I did think he was our best chance to make us seriously, let's raise our eyebrows and go, oh, baby, now we can start to make some moves and start to see some light at the end of the tunnel. Unfortunately, it didn't come across the table.
Yeah, I just wonder about Detroit specifically. He was linked to Detroit, linked to San Jose. Detroit makes the Justin Falk deal. I just wonder what the consideration was. I'm not going to say that OEL's Justin Falk, and I know there's a premium in this league when it comes to right-handed shooting defensemen, but they got a pretty decent return, did St. Louis, in that trade with Detroit. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, Leafs Morning Take. Wherever you find your podcast, make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and don't forget to visit LeafsNation.com. Again, if you want to give us a letter grade, your thoughts here, make sure to pipe up in the chat. This segment is brought to you by Sunwing. Welcome to Sunwing, our friends over at Sunwing. Me and DP just used Sunwing over in Jamaica with a wide assortment of all-inclusive packages to dozens of sun destinations in Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central America. Sunwing makes getaways simple so you can focus on enjoying the resort and exploring beyond it. And Sunwing has partnered with Ocean by H10 Hotels. Evenings usually bring entertainment such as live music, shows, or themed events. For more information and a book, check out sunwing.ca. And that could be a really good idea right now as the Maple Leafs set off for 19 games before this terrible roller coaster of a season concludes. But why don't we go over the trades that happened today, talk a bit about them. Bob McMann goes to Seattle for a second in 2027, a fourth in 2026. Firstly, I think this was a very smart move. If you're not going to re-sign Bob McMann to his asking price, you had to move him. I think it's a fair return. How'd you see it?
Yeah, I think he's the guaranteed you have to get out from under him. He checks all the boxes, right? He's at a certain age. He's all of a sudden popped off where he's going to demand a certain contract. I mean, he didn't score in the last 20 plus games going into the playoffs last year, wasn't a factor in the playoffs. He's shown signs where he's just got this blazing speed. He's got this wicked release. He's capable. But, I mean, here he is being capable in this season and didn't have, enough to even move the needle. So now you're going to bring him back and then also give him just this massive, Rays, it's just not it. And you needed to find a team who wants to try to make a push or do something or fill some gaps and get something back for it where they feel like they can utilize it. And hey, we are lacking in that department. So you had to move them. Like 2 seconds would have been awesome. I mean, that would have been like, damn right. That's some good business right there. A second and a fourth, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, that's the best offer they got. What do you do? Just wait. Like, you can't, like, should have got a 2 seconds. Well, did you think that was on the table and he chose a second and a fucking fourth? Like, that's the best offer that was available. And you worked the phones and you tried to, play these different games with guys and make it appealing. And what about this? And I helped you out back there. And we go back a long time and you're doing what you can try to do as a GM. But at the end of the day, no one sent an offer any better than that. So you have to get him off your payroll. You can't lose him for nothing. You can't re-sign him to what he's going to ask for. So here we are. We got a second and a fourth. You have to move on. You did. It's as good as you could get. It's not bad. I say, all right, good. Needed to be done.
I can live with it, plain and simple. The other thing I would say, big conversation we've had the last couple of weeks, what's stopping the Maple Leafs and circling back on July 1? If Bob McMann loved being a Maple Leaf so much, re-engage. You're telling me this guy's re-signing with the Seattle Kraken? Give me a fucking break. With all due respect to our good friends out in Seattle, I mean, this guy's going to have the pick of the litter where he wants to sign. And if he actually wants to win a Stanley Cup, I'm sorry, Seattle, you're not winning a cup anytime soon. So I think it's a pretty decent landing spot. Like, there was rumors Colorado was going to be in there, maybe Edmonton. To land in Seattle actually gives me hope that maybe they get back to July 1. Maybe his market softens and it doesn't go the way they expect. And what they were, asking for then is, here is not the same as then. But it opens up possibilities. But I see this deal go through, and I don't think any differently of it. I didn't expect a first rounder. I think people were a bit disappointed maybe in just looking at social media that obviously we all wanted a first-round pick for Bob McMann. It was never going to happen. I think any realist out there who's watched Bob McMann, this guy was in the East Coast League like 3 or 4 years ago. Let's call a spade a spade. Yeah. He's a late bloomer. The fact that the Maple Leafs could build Bob McMann up enough to get a second and a fourth-round pick, I think is a job well done. You got to applaud this guy. A late bloomer, picked it up late in his career, found his way. He's got the speed. He's got the shot. He's got assets that you definitely want in your team. But he's a bottom 6 player, and I think the value is good enough for me to pull the trigger, obviously, in that deal. And I'm not going to look back and say, wow, they probably could have gotten more. Like, I think that's fair market value for Bob McMann in a trade.
Yeah, especially when, it's going to be a dogfight in negotiations. If you do want to re-sign him, he's going to want to get paid. I mean, he is obviously thrilled as well with his development, and he's going to pull up all his comparables and say, hey, I'm at 4.55, 5.2. He's going to get these comparables, the best of his ability with him and his agent, and it's just nowhere near where the Leafs are at with it. I mean, if you don't like the team they had this year and you don't like the combination of players and you don't like, just change in general is certainly due. So you had to move on from him. I don't mind it at all. It was what it was. As far as re-signing guys back in July, I would be, more interested in talking to Scott Laughton about that, to be honest.
And that's where we go next. So the destination was surprising for me, and clearly a lot of conversation around this deal, moving Scott Laughton to Los Angeles for a third-round pick becomes a second. If LA makes the Stanley Cup playoffs, as we have this conversation, they're 3 points out of a playoff spot in the Western Conference. People are going to look back to last year's deadline and the first and Gurbankin, and it's just tough asset management. And, to look at where that was a year ago to now, it's going to be difficult for people to live that down. It just truly is. And I'm gutted for Scott Laughton. You obviously played with the guy in Philadelphia. Being a Toronto Maple Leaf was this guy's dream. He got to Toronto. It just didn't work out. He never really found his footing. There were a couple moments where you're like, man, it's great to see Scott Laughton play Scott Laughton hockey, but he just never really found his footing and his feel with this Maple Leafs team. they salvaged something at the very least, but clearly we're going to look back, and understandably so, and look back at the return last year for Philadelphia compared to this year's absolute loss, and a tough situation, I would say, for Brad Treliving, trying to get face after making a trade like that.
Yeah, I mean, I avoid going back and comparing deals like that, especially when you follow the Leafs. They've got a good history of paying too much on both sides of things. How is a first not enough? You got to throw Grabankin in. And how is a first not enough to Boston? You got to throw Minton in, like one of your top 2 prospects. And of course, like every other player, once they leave Toronto, they find their footing and they develop faster than expected. They're an impact player right away, and he fits the mold just great. It's just fucking endless. The hurtful things that Leafs fans have to watch. Hindsight, again, I don't love it. It's awful, and it sucks to compare what they just got Laughton for what they paid for him. Of course, they were 2 different markets. They were teams in different situations, and it just was what it was. Is it going to cost Brad Treliving his job? Possible. I sure don't see a lot of positive things or anyone going to bat for him online, and I get why. People around my neck of the woods in Calgary are just like, oh yeah, man, he pulls those triggers and oftentimes gets worked in hindsight. And yeah, it's not awesome. I would love to, sell guys right now and just fleece teams like we get fleeced. I would love for that to happen. I would love for the assets we acquire to just turn into these, super worthy and high-end players. It doesn't seem to happen to Toronto, man. And what a long history of hurting and suffering, and here's more examples of it, man, no question. But at the end of the day, if you're not comparing apples to apples, he got what he could for Scott Laughton. There's a chance to re-sign him if you so want to. I think if that's going to happen, Craig Berube has to no longer be the coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs for sure. I don't think Scott, I haven't talked to him personally, but I can't imagine with the way he was used in all the different situations and what the team went through, and still the opportunity he got, that he's very thrilled about it. I can't help but think that goes back to the Philadelphia days where Berube coached Laughton in Philly, and it's a bit of a head scratcher for sure, especially with what they were going through and how shitty they looked at times. You can inject that guy somewhere into a better role to see if you can get something going. He's got the leadership and all the things that this team is lacking. It's a bit of a head scratcher. But again, it's going to hurt you to compare apples to apples with these 2 trades from last season to this season. And there's no question the Leafs have absolutely plummeted as far as their ability to win and the outlook of their franchise, the moves they've made, and where they sit right now. It is not a positive time to be part of this thing.
Man, that was the weird thing for me, is that there was a familiarity dating back to their days in Philadelphia together between Scott Laughton and Craig Berube. Like, you would think that Berube would know how to deploy him, but it felt like right away he came in, and all the talk of last year's deadline, boy, oh boy, does this team need a third-line center. Lottie comes in, and he's the 4C, and you're like, what the fuck's going on? Like, is this the same Scott? Like, I understand Philadelphia wasn't a cup contender, but this guy routinely was playing in their top 6. He gets to Toronto, he's playing like 8-9 minutes a night. And I couldn't agree more. I think the deployment was really, really weird. I'd love to know behind the scenes what the hell was going on, because then what happens? You zap the guy of his confidence. He gets in his mind a bit. And I think he never really fully got that confidence back from his days in Philadelphia. Because I think the one thing that certainly stood out on the PK, the guy's money in the bank. I mean, when's the last time the Maple Leafs had that type of player on the PK who's getting opportunity after opportunity? And the other thing too, and people will make light of this and joke about this, but in the room, and you've lived it, you've been teammates with the guy, he seemed like one of those glue guys you need on your team, on your roster. And he was very well liked, and just he calmed the waters a bit in this market. I'm going to miss that aspect of Scott Laughton too.
Yeah, and I mean, it took him a while to get his footing in Toronto. Like, look, I'm not acting like he's Patrice Bergeron here in his prime, but he came over here, and I mean, he's an emotional guy. He's as hard on himself as anybody else is, and I know that when he got to Toronto, he built it up in his head, and he probably cared too much and tried too hard, and it didn't fall into his lap by any stretch. It took him some time to get going, but there was 100% time where he was one of the bright aspects of the team, of the game, of the week. And it was during a time where the rest of the team was absolute dog shit. There was times where the only positive thing you could bring out of a game or a weekend was Scott Laughton. And you'd think at that point in time, he could get elevated to somewhere else to see if he could inject that into some of the more, higher utilized lines and players. And it was a refusal to do so. I don't understand why. Again, these guys know each other. Does it go back to Philly? I don't know of anything that happened there, but maybe Craig was just soured on the guy in the first place in Philly. Then he came in and didn't make an impact right away. And Craig was just like, this is what he is. Take it or leave it. I'm not coming off of my stance on this player. These are the limits, and this is where he's slotted, and this is the ice time he's limited to. It sure seemed like he was steadfast in his ways with it. Especially with what the team was going through and what they looked like during periods of time this season, how could you not find ways to mix it up and get that guy some minutes just to see if there's something else there? A bit of a piss off when you look back at it.
At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as you break down the Maple Leafs' trade deadline. Again, Nicolas Waugh, Scott Laughton, Bob McMann have new teams, 5 total draft picks coming the other way. Still trying to get clarity on what year that third-round pick is for LA. That's a conditional, of course, becomes a second if the Kings make the playoffs. But nevertheless, they get 5 draft picks. Brad Treliving speaking right now. We're going to try to get the sound, play it to you. We'll bring you some of the quotes. But I want to talk specifically, Rosie, about Tree and the faith or lack thereof you have in this general manager right now. You know me specifically. I was really high on this guy going into the season. I don't feel the same way. I just think you look at the body of work, the lack of communication, the lack of moves. They made their first trade since like July 17th. Like, what did he truly do to try and improve this team this year? Troy Stetcher off waivers. It starts to the top. I don't think the GM's been good enough, plain and simple.
Yeah, and I don't know if I like Treliving as much as I want to like Treliving, and I think he's a good dude. I want him to do well. I was happy when we hired him. I understand the job is difficult and you can't just snap your fingers, but there's not a lot of situations where you feel like he did some real tight business and got the best of the other team and made something happen that nobody really thought was possible. Doesn't really ever feel like he took advantage of any team or struck while the iron was hot. There's just not a lot of examples where you're really, really on team Treliving, right? And again, I'm not as up in arms, furious, fire him yesterday as some people are. But at the end of the day, with where the team is at right now, while he's been at the helm, the fall off happened with him steering the ship, and the moves that were made did not produce a winning hockey team. And sometimes it doesn't matter any more details than that. You haven't done a good enough job here. This team is in shambles, and now we are going to get someone with a new perspective to dig us out of it. And I would not be surprised if that happens. It's just interesting if that's what their mentality is as well, letting him go through this deadline. Maybe not enough time to get the job done. They still thought they could have made the playoffs, which they could have after the Olympic break. Once you realize that's not happening, what are you going to fire a guy and you got to replace him in like 10 days? Not happening, right? It's too big of a position. It's too big of a market to force that to happen. So I'm still going to be waiting patiently. I'm curious as to what happens. But I can't help but be leaning towards the side of I am going to be surprised if Tree and Craig Berube are with the Maple Leafs come the summertime.
Just so tired of this team kicking tires and not getting said player. The other thing I'd bring to the table, it just doesn't feel like he has his finger on the pulse of the team. He hasn't really made the big trade this year, hasn't made the big acquisition. Again, the Stetcher move was good. It was fine. He's a depth defenseman. I, for one, thought they could have used the whole firing the coach. It works. Just ask the Columbus Blue Jackets. And that's not me saying I'm not a Craig Berube guy, but I think it's quite clear. It's been clear all season long, the last 3 months, that they've tuned this guy out and are done with him. Maybe you bring in somebody new. I don't care who it is, and maybe it ignites the team. It's happened time and time again before in this league, but he hasn't used any bullets in that chamber. I admire the patience, and that's the one aspect I do like about Treliving. He's got a lot of experience, but sometimes you got to act swiftly, or this happens. You lose your season and you're cooked, and now you're trying to put together a deadline as a seller for the first time in a decade, and it's the tough market, and you don't get what you're asking for, and that's why they're in this shit show right now. Like it's just like a perfect storm too.
Well, and I mean, he can't control the market, right? If say he gets canned today and you get the opportunity to sit across the table from him and say, hey, I think what you did was garbage. You should have made the big deal. You should have gotten the big acquisition. He would sit there and he would give you a piece of paper that said, here were my options. Here's what I had to work with. And then if you could go in a time machine and go back to that period of time and look at the offer and look at what you could do, you'd say, no way are we doing that. That's panic mode. That's doing something for the sake of doing something. That's a dumb move that doesn't make sense right now. I just guarantee that he would be able to have a leg to stand on to say, I canvassed the whole league, which he is famous for doing. Everyone knows that guy works the phones. He appears to be a good guy. He has good relationships. He's been around the block. Maybe not so much with Calgary, but there's just no way that if he got canned, you wouldn't sit down and he'd be like, we made the moves that made sense at the time. Nothing else came across our desk. I worked it and worked it and worked it. I could not bring myself to pull the trigger on any of these deals because they did not make sense. And I just have a tough time believing that anyone here listening, having an opinion on it, would be able to say, no, you totally butchered that. I would have done it, and it would have been the right move, and they'd be in a better place right now. I mean, a lot of factors go into this shit show, right? Case in point, at the deadline last year, pretty overwhelmingly positive, response to the deadline. People said, we had these deficiencies. You made it happen. Yeah, it was costly, but that's the market right now. What are we going to do? Just not do it? Come up a little bit short because we didn't have that right-handed D-man, because we didn't have that depth center? Smart. Thanks a lot. Now our window's closed. You had a chance to win. You didn't do it. They were going to be on him for that. Hindsight's easy to have a scathing opinion on a guy.
Optically, it just doesn't look good when Corey Perry's going for a second and Michael McCarron's going for a second. It just doesn't look good. It doesn't, okay? Like, I want to back this guy too, but I think he is a really strong negotiator. The contracts that he has put forth, for the most part, there's been a couple maybe. For the most part, they've been solid. I think in his career, trades have not been his forte. And I think he outweighted the market thinking that he'd get down to the final couple days and he'd make a trade because somebody was desperate. Nobody came calling. But optically, again, I think it's really difficult when 85-year-old Corey Perry, and I get it, he's in the Stanley Cup final every year, he's going for a second, and Michael McCarron, some big tough guy, goes to Minnesota. And so, again, we don't know truly what the offers were, and I side with you. He's clearly going to take the best offer available, but you just wonder if the patience actually screwed him over in this instance, where he gets down to the nitty-gritty. He's got like an hour, 45 minutes left, and he knows he's got to move these guys, right?
Well, if it were to come out that he had better offers on the table earlier and he waited it out and those offers went away and he had to settle for less, I would be happy to fire him myself.
See you later. Yeah.
We're not privy to that information. It's so easy to just look at the results of something and say, this guy's a complete moron, when I'm sure a lot of the people saying that were the same ones that were happy with the moves at last deadline, that were happy with the different direction they went. But yeah, I do agree with you. He has a better track record at contracts and things like that. Like, the Tavares contract, for example, but
sure.
There's, on the other hand, there's people in Calgary that are like, hey, he did the best he could with getting screwed as he did with everyone leaving Calgary. But where he went wrong is signing Huberdeau to that monstrosity of a deal.
God.
I mean, who would have thought he would fall off like that? But I mean, you gave him the bag immediately. So it's tough, man. It's a tough business. It's a tough market. It might cost him his job. But I guess my only point is I try to keep in mind that hindsight is 20/20.
That's fair. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I'm going to say it right now. If Brad Treliving is not the GM come July 1, there are bigger fucking issues with this team, because I don't know how you let somebody run your trade deadline the first time as a seller in a decade if you're not bringing him back for another season. And I think he has the easiest scapegoat. He can be like, you know what? The guys tune out the coach, injuries, we'll fire the coach, we'll hire somebody new, and we'll come back strong next year. And then that's what would concern me, is that they picked up some of these assets, these draft picks, and he's going to march into next year's trade deadline and be like, we're going to be buyers this year. We're going to be situational buyers. And I'm losing faith, man. I'm really losing faith in this administration. I just don't know the direction. I know Treliving having some conversations, speaking to the media. We'll get some of those quotes momentarily. I want to get to some super chats as well in support of Sick Kids. Boy Soul writes in, buy high, sell low, baby. Leafs way, Treliving way. Zach Green writes in, Berube is the reason Laughton got moved. And Maxentius Decimus, I think another really good point. Another tool that could have been used, and you would have to think they have 1 billion people in the management group there in Toronto. Remember that retention word? Double retention. That's where Maxentius Decimus is going. How much did removing double retention affect the deadline? I think massively, especially with contenders. A lot of them are cap strap teams. It was really bizarre because the Maple Leafs, the first time in a while, had cap space. I was actually stunned to add they didn't add a player like a Patrick Laine and take on an asset. And again, we don't know what was transpiring behind the scenes, but it made a lot of sense from that aspect that maybe you attach, a Laine who's in a contract here, who makes some money, get a pick or a prospect back and do business. But none of that really happened, in addition to the Maple Leafs, nowhere around the league, quite frankly.
Yeah, that's fair. You would have thought that this would be a year where they could have absolutely done that, right?
Yeah.
Have the cash, they have the space, they have the ability, they're going nowhere. You could have, if your whole MO is filling your cupboards and filling up on assets, you could have taken one of those contracts off a team's hands. The double retention thing, I don't know specific examples of where that would have worked, but the double retention would have stopped you. But that is a thing that's happened in the past, no question. Maybe there's so much going on with Tree, making 3 deals, getting those over the finish line was enough noise and waiting and talking and working the phones. I guess that's why you would knock Tree as well, saying you can't even focus on more than a couple of things. So yeah, I thought something like that would come down the barrel, and it's like, who gives a shit who we have to pay for the rest of the regular season? Let's get something else on the cupboards here. Didn't happen either. So whether Treliving's the GM or someone else is the GM, the fact remains the Leafs are sitting where they're sitting with what they have available to them. So Fire him if you want. I'm kind of indifferent to it, to be honest with you. Fire Treliving if you choose. Bring in so-and-so. I just want to know what so-and-so is going to do with this mess. How do you plan on getting a competitive team on the ice with where it sits right now? The only guys you have left are some of the major players in this disaster of a season. I'm just curious, last year it was so easy to spin it. Like, here's where we fell short. This is what we believe we need to get stronger at. Here's how we're going to go about it. This is what we want out of the DNA change. Okay, here we go. At least there's a direction. I don't know what the hell they're going to say or how they're going to try to spin it, whoever the GM is this summer.
Speaking of Treliving, he addressed the media about 10 minutes ago. I think the biggest quote to come of it, the failures here start with me. From my standpoint, some roster construction issues. Isn't that admitting defeat? Yeah, I fucked this up.
Well, again, hindsight, you look at it and you say that didn't work. Bringing in Michelli and Waugh and Dakota Joshua did not work. You wanted these guys to find something together and find a way to play together that, checked more boxes than they had previously. Didn't happen. Obviously, losing Marner did hit the team. 100 points is hard to replace, but you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. They needed a change. The timing was Mitch Marner's contract was due. They offered him the biggest one in Leafs history. He turned it down. I mean, God, I can't help but go back and say, if it wasn't for Marner blocking the trade and his wife being pregnant and stuff, which is valid, but he had Rantanen on a plane to come to Toronto. And I mean, I think that guy is a horse and he is a player. And I think that the team would have looked considerably different had he been able to get him here, but Mitch blocked it. That would have been something that was a feather in his cap where it would go toward his reputation for sure. That might salvage his position in Toronto. But again, we're going to wait and see. He's certainly taking accountability here, which is more than I can say for some people in the organization. Is his goose cooked? Maybe he already knows it's cooked. I have no idea. But yeah,
man, what would your opinion be if they fired Treliving after running the deadline? Man, that would be the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life. Like, do you not agree with me that this confirms that he's back? And if it's not, like, they got some major league issues on top of like Keith Pelly. I just don't know how you have somebody run it who you don't have any faith in, you know?
Well, I know, but again, like, who do you put in place? Guys don't even, like, you have to know these players.
Yeah.
You have to know the way they work together. You have to know the opportunity they've been given. You have to know these guys inside and out. I mean, if you wanted to, and again, they had, you don't have to go back to like January where they were hotter than shit. It looked like they were going to put it together and go on this tear and be the team that everyone hoped they would be. Then they had this just out of nowhere 5-game slide that started with that Marner Vegas game. Then you win 3 in a row to go into the Olympic break, and everyone's like, there it was again. We just got to start on the right foot when this NHL season resumes. They do the complete goddamn opposite thing of that. Like, when would you have fired him during all of that? And once you realize you're cooked, how do you get a general manager as important as the Toronto Maple Leafs general manager and shove him into place? Like, it's a bigger process than that. I honestly,
well, Rosie, we got a prime example in the NHL this year, right? Kevin Adams got canned, and it's been a crazy heater ever since for Buffalo. And Jarmo Kekalainen came in there, and he was already on the staff. But I mean, who's to say somebody else on the staff like Pridham or Shane Doan couldn't have run this operation?
Yeah, if you stay in house, so like, if you stay in house, I get, yeah, you could have done that. I don't think they're ready to. I don't think Pridham, Donor's got potential, to be honest. I don't know if he's ready or how highly they value him, but there's a guy without a smudge on his record as far as doing anything but being an unbelievable player, an unbelievable guy, like literally one of the best guys in hockey. And he's been around the organization for a while. I mean, maybe that would be a viable option, but they didn't do it, did they? So I honestly still wouldn't be shocked if before the draft they announce a new general manager. I think it's still possible.
Speaking of which, one topic I did want to get to today, it went down Thursday night. I was very enraged that it got out there that the Leafs would take calls on Matthew Knies. Like, what are we doing here? I don't know about you, but I'm trading Matthews or Nylander before I'm trading Matthew Knies. And I understand people are up in arms and they're like, Knies having a shit year, and who the hell is this guy that we signed? I still have a lot of faith in what Matthew Knies can bring to the table. I still feel he's built differently. I still feel he could be future captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I was really disappointed to find out the Maple Leafs were willing to do that. Now, I got some pushback from the organization itself. I can confirm what you heard from Friedman, that, I mean, who's going to disqualify what Friedman says, but they were definitely taking calls and they were open to conversations about it. That scares the shit out of me, Rosie.
Well, I mean, and how serious? I mean, the question is, how serious were they shopping him around trying to get rid of him? No, but they realize that the light at the end of this tunnel is not going to come without some serious decisions that get made. And I think, I mean, if I was a general manager of a team, I would pretty much want to hear an offer on every single player, even if he's the greatest player in the world. I want to hear everything. It does no harm in doing that, except for leaking out like that and having Knies be like, what the fuck? But I just don't see it
exactly.
as that.
I think PR-wise, it's terrible because Knies is going to see that shit and be like, what are we doing? Like, I just signed with you guys, re-signed with you guys.
Fucking wah. I don't think you read into it that much, man. With
No?
how desperate this team is and how brutal they are, just to hear that, hey, we'll listen to what people have to say. I don't know. Since doing this job and being in the media side of everything, I can't believe how big of a deal everyone makes of something like that. You're not moving on from Nyes unless someone just blows their load to get you, and you cannot physically say no to it. And if someone's willing to do that, I'd like to hear about it. There's no harm in that. Obviously, they didn't want it to get out to the media and whatnot. But would you go, la, 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 don't even, la, la, if you're the GM, fucking, we're in dire straits right now. I'll hear anything on anyone. But no, they're not going to move on from Nyes. Now is not the time to move that guy ever, even if you wanted to. His stock is as low as it's probably ever going to be. But that's how dire straits the situation is, man. But I'm all about what you said. I would move on from Matthews and Nylander before I did Nyes.
Plain and like, yeah, that's the bigger, like, if you're gonna take calls on Nyes, then I'm taking calls on Matthews and Nylander. I'm sorry.
I think they
like,
would.
I hold him in high regard. No, but it sounds like they're not open to that conversation. I hold Nyes in that regard where I think he's in that threshold. I know he's having a tough year. We know he's got a knee injury. As somebody brought up in the chat, he's probably going to get around 65, 70 points. Like, he's having a pretty decent season point-wise. With the rest of the team, it hasn't been good watching the game actually on the ice, but he's got a bright future, and he's 22 years old. Like, give this guy a break. It's driving me nuts on social media, people turning on Matthew Nyes. Like, what are we doing as a fan base?
Yeah, I mean, and I would love to know the details on how that got out, because I guarantee Tree, if he's sitting there, he's going, are you fucking kidding me? That one conversation I had with so-and-so where he's like, well, who else are you thinking on? And he's sitting here going, man, we are in one right now. We're open to anyone. And then he said, well, what about Matthew Nyes? Being like, well, he's kind of our golden child right now. Why? You got a big offer or something like that? Hey, at this point, I'm all ears there, Jimmy. Oh, okay, well, shit. Let me circle back. I got to go talk to Colorado. Okay, blah, blah. And then that comes out in the media, and you're like, are you fucking kidding me? That is not that's probably how that shit works. Some rink-eating conversation that someone says to someone who tells their sister, who tells their brother-in-law, and all of a sudden Friedman tweets it. I imagine he's pretty pissed that got out there. But I'm not, I mean, fuck, look at where they're at right now. I would want to hear everything and anything that someone wanted. Maybe you can take advantage of someone. Maybe someone will do something stupid. Who knows, man? They're in that bad of a spot. Although I'm on board with you, I would not move on from Matthew Nyes. I would talk about moving Matthews and Nylander before I talked about moving on from Matthew Nyes.
Brad Treliving on Craig Berube, if he's the right coach for this team. Craig's a terrific coach. He says it hasn't worked right. So when it doesn't work, we all share a blame. We all share responsibility. So starts with myself. It's the coaches. It's the players. Yeah, he's getting fired.
He gone. Wow.
Yeah. That's tough.
That's fairly easy to read between the lines there, man. Well, what do you do when you're going to move on from him 100% in my mind?
Yeah.
And what pisses me off is I don't even think it's his fault. I think you have to fire him, but it's not even his fault. And then you give these fucking prima donnas who embarrass themselves and the whole organization what they want, because he asked them to do something that they weren't willing to do. And because of that reason is why I think moving on from Matthews and Nylander needs to start being on the table, which it's becoming a theme about people talking about who never would have talked about it even a month ago. And you need to just bring in a different voice, someone else to do something different systematically, someone to try and get more out of it. You need different. It just pisses me off, because if those guys actually just wanted to commit to what Craig was preaching like they did for the 10-12 games after Christmas, there was enough there to do it, but it was just too hard for these fancy boys. It pisses me off, man. I have trouble watching them, what they're doing right now and what they've turned this season into. I am 100% blaming all of the players before anyone else. There's lots of blame to go around, but I'm squarely looking at the players before I look at anyone else.
Honestly, I think the worst part about this is that they've stopped playing. Like this 6-game losing skid specifically, they've just mailed it in. We're done. Let's start booking tea time. It is embarrassing. Like, that's the premium word I would use with this whole thing, because we know this team is talented enough to at least vie for playoff contention. They're not even sniffing around, and they're losing to fucking like Philadelphia. And New Jersey. And as you brought up earlier on, that was the Rangers' first home win since like November. We're talking months since winning at MSG. And not only did they beat the Maple Leafs, like they killed them. Like it wasn't even close. JT Miller's not playing. Trocheck's not playing. It's a fucking disaster with this team right now. By the way, Treliving asked about the lack of return, I guess, on Scott Laughton, saying the market dictates, which we've been echoing that throughout the podcast today.
Yeah, it's true. Like, what is even the question? Did you have better offers for Laughton and you just like fuck? Nah, I really like
you
a
a
kid
spy, Brad?
Oh fuck! Going back to what we were talking about, like it just blows my mind how much stock people put into the coach and into the system.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh yeah, the fucking effort they gave this year would have led to so many different wins if their forecheck was a little more passive, or they had more of a puck possession type of team, or like, what are you talking about, man? Their effort level. I mean, the game just comes down to a couple of hundred puck battles per game, loose pucks. And that comes down to commitment and intensity and desire and want. And whatever system you're playing, I mean, the Devils won cups with the most ridiculous trap system where they hardly crossed the blue line. I remember playing even in the minors against their minor league team as a defenseman. You'd go back for a puck and it'd be funny because there's no skate blades chasing you down. There's nobody coming. There's no forecheck. It was wild, and they won cups doing it. There's other teams that are absolute run and gun. There's teams that are, doesn't matter what you see, you're flipping it high and chasing it down. Like it does. There's different systems that can win. The thing that matters is the level of commitment that your team gives to that system. And I'm watching closely, but I've never seen a team that is so reluctant to do the things that the team needs. There's lots of talent. There's enough talent on the team. They've had goaltending before. There's enough pieces there where you can come together and do just a hell of a lot more than they did this season. I just can't get over how many people are pointing the fingers and don't even mention the goddamn players that dog fucked it all year long and embarrassed themselves and continue to do so on a nightly basis right now. I know that it's better to not win and see if we can get that pick back from Boston, which is a pathetic fucking place to be. But I just can't believe watching them being like, look how comfortable they are not giving a fuck. Like, this is their wheelhouse, and it just speaks to the last 10 years too.
To be blunt too, just that, I think it's a results-oriented business, and there's justification to fire both the coach and the GM. I think along the way, the last year, I guess we'll say, there have been situations or plays or results that are fireable offenses, specifically when it comes to the general manager. You know me, I'm a big Tree guy. I think he is such an amazing human being. He's a good dude, treats everybody with respect, and he's a guy you want to talk to. But it's a results-oriented business. This team sucks. And who's on watch? It's him. And who made 2 lousy trades last year? It's him. So for everything I said positively, it's a results-oriented business, and I don't think you can place blame on injury the way people are in the organization. Like that letter to season ticket holders from Keith Pelly. Come on. Like, anybody with a brain who's a fan of this organization and this fan base comprehends that this team dogged it for the majority of the season, something we've seen for the last decade. Like, this is not new territory for this fan base. I've mentioned it time and time again. The Leafs have efforts the way they played against Ottawa and Florida, Philadelphia. We've almost become numb to it as a fan base because it's expected and we've seen it so many times that we just look past it. But it happens a lot in this market. And who's on watch for all this? It's Brad Treliving. It's Craig Berube. So I think there's been many reasons why out there in the last 6 to 8 months where you would have no problem making that decision to fire both guys, plain and simple.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't say I argue with that. I just, you talk about the way those guys have played and the teams they've had and the intensity and the effort and playing with some guts and having some committed high compete level players. It does blow my mind too how people try to reinvent the wheel on pointing at this or that. And the most glaring thing is right there. And I mean, every year for 10 years, you got to take a test, and the proof was in the results of the test every goddamn time. And then everyone has to try to reinvent the wheel and say it was something else. And it was, what about maybe the system isn't conducive to the style. Shut the fuck up. These guys dog fuck it. And this is the exclamation point on this era. They knew that early. That's why they brought Babcock in. A rough and tumble, no nonsense, going to make it. It turns out the game passed him by. He has character flaws. He treated this, it's a new era. You can't pull that kind of shit. He turns out to be a complete asshole. So, scary Babcock. Now we got to go with someone who's going to be a little softer because now all these guys are damaged. Mitch Marner had to show his phone. Okay, in comes Keefe. They go about their business. They look close. That's kind of the core years of this group. Doesn't work out. He moves on. And guess what is still glaring to everybody? The accountability of these guys to play the right way. So in comes Craig Berube. Treliving's on board. Let's make this team, they acknowledged it. We come up short in these areas. I'm kind of surprised that Craig didn't hold them more accountable. And maybe that's, being in Toronto and whatnot. A couple of times he barks down the bench at Willie for having some dog shit turnover. And everyone's like, oh, did you see he yelled at Willie? Did you see he yelled at Willie? That's so, somebody, what's Willie going to respond with? Fucking kidding me? He's a late 20s NHL hockey player who has if only fault that he has too much goddamn confidence. I think he should have barked at him a little. Sit your ass down for a fucking second until you commit to this team and play the way that fucking winners play. Enough of this dog shit. And maybe leave your fucking purse at home next game too. A little bit of, maybe not that, but a little bit of that.
What's wrong with the purse, man? What's wrong with the purse?
All of a sudden these guys are like, man, this purse. Maybe he needed more of that because fuck me, he kind of did and kind of didn't, and he should try to stay positive.
He's chill. He's a chill guy, man, Willie.
You try not to lose the players these days. They're young and they're soft and they go into a shell, and you can really affect them, and you'll lose them for a month if you say the wrong thing. I get it. But at the end of the day, this team needed some accountability. I still don't really think they got it, and they certainly didn't respond to whatever it was they were getting from Craig Berube. I cannot believe they asked them to do X, and they literally refused and did Y. And now this organization is in shambles.
I'm not kidding. If I'm Craig Berube, I go to Brad Treliving tomorrow and say, hey, it's not working out here. Just can me, and we'll say it was mutual, and we'll just move on with life, and you can pay me the duration of my contract, and we'll go our separate ways. You watch this team right now, and again, I guess we got to tee up this game against Tampa Bay tomorrow. Just give your quick thoughts. Who knows who's going to start? Tampa's going to the playoffs. Does Corey Perry play? The Leafs have 2 regulation wins in the last 19. We're going to see OEL back in the lineup after his Sunwing vacation the last couple games, eating hot wings in the New Jersey press box and popcorn in the MSG press box. That was the best part, man. They couldn't even get rid of Calle Yarncroke. You realize Calle Yarncroke's still on this fucking team? So is Nick Robertson. So is Matthias Michelli. That's going to be a bigger combo in the summer. Do you qualify Matthias Michelli? He's an RFA this summer. I'm just letting him walk. See you later. And optically, that's going to look like shit. You know why? The Leafs gave up a 3rd-round pick to get this guy from Utah. And it gets back to the greater conversation. Why was Utah so open to trading Matthias Michelli? And fuck, Rosie, we have found that out the hard way, haven't we?
Yeah, a little bit. It was a bit of a risk. It was a roll of the dice. And again, when we acquired him, a 3rd rounder, okay, whatever. This guy has put up 60-plus points. He is an absolute disher. We just lost our disher. Maybe we can get him. The problem to me is we always want guys to come to Toronto who have lost it or else who are coming off a career year, and they come here and we're like, okay, get back to your old self under these bright lights in Toronto and the scrutiny, or else, hey, you know what you did that was a complete one-off in fucking New Jersey there? Well, come here and do it and be even better at it. Do it again times 2. This market is very hard. Yeah. And it's very rare where we get a guy to come to Toronto and play better than he has in the past. And people don't like that narrative. And it's not, everyone mix that narrative up with the media is too hard on them and they make them sad and then they can't play good. It's not that. It's just that there's so much scrutiny. You can't make an eye gesture, a facial expression, or yell down the bench at someone without it being headline news for 2 days. So you're in this shell of like trying to isolate yourself from it, which is weird. You poke your head out or try to like converse with the market or the media, and it gets turned into something that it maybe wasn't. So then everyone tells you to keep your mouth shut and say nothing. And then it's the media versus the players, and everyone's talking about it. You can't go out for dinner. Everyone's staring at you. People are coming up to you. People are yelling at you in your car. It's the market that is just the size of it is what makes it difficult to play, and how much passion there is and how much people care about the market. There's nothing that you're going to do. It's not the media's fault. You can't fix it. People love the Toronto Maple Leafs. They always have. They always will. It makes it hard to win there. I've felt it. It's different than other markets. And for that reason, we see all the time the high hopes of players coming here, and they just don't produce the way you wished.
I can't believe there are people in this chat defending Matthias Michelli.
I don't think you let him walk for nothing. Like, who the fuck's going to play on this roster?
I don't know, man. I could not tell you that answer, but it's been a fun saga to document. Dude, I love romantic comedies. I can't believe Yarncroke's still a Leaf. I can't believe Nick Robertson's still a Leaf. Like we're still there at that conversation. What should they do with Nick Robertson? We're going to have a fucking segment. Zach's going to make a beautiful thumbnail in the summer. What should the Maple Leafs do with Nick Robertson? It's Groundhog Day.
Again.
It's what it is, you know?
Listen, if half the team had the this is like my Rudy speech right now, but if like half of that group had the heart of Nick Robertson, we wouldn't be in this spot. I have a soft spot for him because like just ISO cam the guy on his shifts. He fucking works so hard, and it is hard to get players to do that, I'll tell you. And you listen to like interviews and stuff, and he's like, man, I just realized that it was my time to make an impact in this league, to try to get a contract, to try to get this, that, and reach my goals. And I was willing to do anything to do that. And you watch him chase pucks and stuff. I admit it doesn't lead to a whole lot. And, you know, he's not big enough to be a big power forward, not quite skilled enough to be in the top 6 every night. And he's kind of in that no man's land, and it might be his downfall. But one thing that I will say about that guy that I cannot say about many guys on this team, he works his nuts off. He wants it. He has passion. He is not scared to get in there and to work. And I love watching him do that. But there's been a long track record of him doing just that and, you know, being fairly inconsistent. I don't know what the future holds for any single player on this team, man.
Yarncroke, man. Like, poor fucking guy, man. It's been like months. This guy's like driving to games with OEL. Like, I can only wonder what those two talk about on the way to games, man. Like, this guy's like, get me the fuck out of this place. And it must be the worst feeling on earth to know the team doesn't want you and there's nobody who wants you. Like, he's playing out the string for his contract.
Guys are in that boat, man. Like, you're on the team. There's no one coming down the pipeline. You have experience, or you do something well enough to justify putting your jersey on more often than not. But I mean, there's guys that are on the bubble like that. And I mean, he probably won't make the team. He probably won't be on the team next year or get re-signed or whatever.
He won't make the team next year. You're right.
What's his contract? Has he got another year on it or what?
Buddy, July 1 is his birthday. It's got to be because he's leaving. He's a UFA after this season. So they just, nobody wanted him.
That might be the end of the line for him. I don't know. There are players like that. I mean,
it's going to be.
I just am so curious to what, like, at least that's exciting. At least there's.
Okay. I like that.
Who's going to coach? Who's the GM? What's the plan? How are we going to acquire a hockey team to play next year? Is it going to be through free agency? Are you going to move some of these pieces that you've acquired around? Can you make old school hockey trades? Nick Robertson for so-and-so. Let's fucking swap for the sake of swapping. Things like that might be coming down the barrel, and I am very curious to see who is on that opening night roster in the start of 2026 here in the fall. It's a long ways to go, and there's not going to be a whole lot of fun and celebration until then. It's a shitty time, but I mean, that's the reality where this organization is. And again, we watched enough games this season to know why, if you ask me.
As the days progress, I get in a darker and darker place. And it's because I keep hearing the team name Boston Bruins. Like, I'm sorry to break it to people out there, and I understand the comparable, and you want to be Boston, and you clearly didn't do what Boston did at last year's deadline with clearly some of the transactions they made. But last time I checked, Jeremy Swayman's on the Maple Leafs. Charlie McAvoy's not a Maple Leaf. David Pastrnak, who's a noted dog, is not a Maple Leaf. So I don't know where this hope and optimism is coming from this fan base. Like, I think they're doomed. I hate to be that guy. I think they're doomed. And I despise the fact that the goal is to make the Stanley Cup playoffs. They've lost sight of the plot, trying to win. I don't care if they go to the playoffs. I could not care less if we have a watch party on King Street West, but they lose in the first round. It does nothing for me. I want to know the direction. I want to know the game plan. I want to know what the future entails. And we have zero answers. Nobody's really said anything all season long.
Well, the question is, can they get back to being competitive without tearing it down and doing a complete rebuild? Which, Buffalo's pretty much had to do it. Montreal has done it. Detroit's had, like, there's these teams that go away and you just don't even talk about them for a while. The Leafs don't like that. The billions upon billions upon billions of dollars of contracts they have with TV deals and all the rest of it, that they want to always be a team that is considered a contender. They don't want to hear that. But I think they have fallen victim of holding on too long and selling too much to try to win now every year, when the same goddamn fucking problem ended your previous season. You didn't rectify it. You didn't add the pieces necessary. That falls on a lot of different people. They're just very reluctant to rebuild. And maybe this is the first time that anyone really had a serious thought about it, because they fell from grace so goddamn fast. But I just don't know if they can get back to being more than what you just said, where, great, you snuck into the playoffs and lost in 5, unless they rebuild. And does rebuilding mean, like, can you I don't think it happens with Austin Matthews and William Nylander. You're not going to be a contender again. I don't think you win with those guys. Maybe you can I don't even think you can get to contender status, especially with the way Austin Matthews has fallen off the map. But I have thought since day one that you're not going to win with these guys, because when push comes to shove, they're not going to be there. And push always comes to shove before you get to where, those late rounds, before you get to the conference finals and before you get to the final, and certainly before you win a Stanley Cup. So how bad do you tear it down? And do you go with your own draft picks, or do you try to acquire, other pieces from other teams, other players already now, other prospects that are soon to be? It's going to be interesting, man, but it's going to be longer than people want. It's going to be longer than the Toronto Maple Leafs sports and entertainment wants to hear, but they are that bad right now. They have that many warts right now. Just watch the beginning of the season. Watch them after the fucking Olympic break. Watch the stuff they're doing right now. It's shameful.
Depressing is another word I would use. In support of sick kids, Jose Duarte writes in, is there still trades going on? Tree said he still did trades. As far as I know, I don't see anything. I think it's just the 3 trades that they talked about, McMann and Laughton, the 2 trades plus the Nick Watt trade from yesterday. But the bare minimum, it's always that case deadline time that there's this expectation a lot's going to happen. League-wide, it was a weird day. I know a lot of moves are made in the days prior. Yesterday, specifically, the John Carlson deal happening, that was pretty crazy. But if this year's so different, because a lot of teams that are not normally there, like teams that are happy to be there, don't really put an onus on like trying to go after a Stanley Cup. And I think that muddied the waters. I think to the conversation we had about retention, that's also a big question I have that I would love to, if we ever get a chance to interview Brad Treliving about this deadline. Did you try to use retention to sweeten a deal to get more out of a team? It's a good question, because they still have their 3 slots. They're going to have to use one on Morgan Riley if they want to move that contract this summer. So there's a lot of questions, no answers, minimal answers. I should say, on this team. Anything else you want to add? Like, we obviously got so many shows to do between now and the summer, but anything else you want to add on the game tomorrow, or have you said your piece?
We said a lot.
We did.
More question marks, more questions than statements right now. And we'll let the dust settle. We'll see what people are saying, see what people are thinking, see what the consensus is after it's a ho-hum deadline. Kind of it's not a disaster. Not everyone's marching down Bay Street throwing shit at the building because it's just shocking. You did what we wanted to do. Maybe didn't get back as much as we wanted. Now everyone's speaking and Tree's saying we need to find out why we're so flat. Fuck. Again, there's just more questions than there are statements. And like you said, we've got lots of time on Leafs Morning Take. We're still doing shows. We're still watching games. There's going to be lots to talk about. And again, I'm very, very curious at the future of the Maple Leafs. And we'll just let this trade line sink in here and see what transpires after.
We're almost at a point where there's going to be a mercy firing for Craig Berube. I will just add that. Like 6 straight losses. If they completely no-show against Tampa tomorrow and all bets are off on that front, they almost have to pull the trigger. If you're going to pull the trigger in the summer, just do it now. Put this guy out of his misery. Yeah. I just feel really bad for Craig Berube and any coach that has coached these guys.
I mean, yeah.
I'm so mad at this team, dude. I'm so mad. Like, I love being a Toronto Maple Leaf fan. I'm so mad. I hate that we're the laughing stock of the Leafs or of the league, just us, the fan base. And again, if you're going to be shit, just go out with dignity and pride. Play a hockey game. If you lose 4-3 and you work your bag off and you score some pretty goals and you play somewhat inspired hockey, I don't think the fan base would respond this way. But the sickening aspect of all this, the cherry on top, is that the team's shit. They're sellers for the first time in a decade. And these guys, again, look disinterested. They don't want to be there. And you're paying these guys a lot of money to perform, and they just look out of it. Like it's crazy. It is absolutely wild for me to see.
I mean, they look out of it at the best of times, man.
Mm-hmm.
There's times where it's like, what do you expect now? These guys don't fucking show up when they're playoffs, when they have a chance to win. Like, coming out of the break.
Well, this will piss you off. They're gonna start cooking at some point, and Michelli's gonna do behind the back passes, and fucking they're gonna go roof daddy in a couple shots, and you'll see. You'll see.
There'll be no structure, no accountability, no give a fuck. So Michelli, it'll be street hockey for Michelli, and he'll that's what he wants to play. He's one of those guys. But I've already predicted that we're going to miss out on getting that draft pick by 3 points.
Oh, God.
That's my thought here. We're going to miss out on getting that.
That's
Boston
the worst
pick
part
back.
about this is, like, it's a death march to Boston getting a really, really good draft pick. And I know you missed it today, but during the TSN broadcast, they did like a mock draft lottery, and the Leafs got the first overall pick. I think they have the 8th worst record right now in the league, and they'd have to do some serious stuff to win the draft lottery. But
I would tank.
That's what hurts. But I think they're 9 points up on the 5th place team. Like, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard.
Like, you're already humiliated. You're already the laughing stock. Yeah. You're already fucking pathetic. At least, fuck it. Rest everybody. I mean, there's lots of guys that are bunged. Nyes is bunged up.
Yeah.
Nylander's been bunged up. Matthews is banged up. Our goalies are always banged up. We got older D-men that are easily banged up. Play the fucking Marlies. At very least, see if someone wants to stand up and show some balls and something that this group's lacking. Maybe you got someone who can maybe raise some eyebrows about cracking the team next year, even though that looks very bleak. Like you'd know by now. Just tank. Get that pick back. You know that pick is going to be somebody. Fuck, it might be first. Like you say, could be even higher than we think. Yeah. You know that's going to be someone that just haunts them for decades. It's like all you have left. That's how pathetic this is. That's all you have left is just well, just really humiliate yourself and just have everybody know you're just completely tanking, shut everyone down. At least there's lots of injuries going around that you could at least hang your hat on and say, fuck, these guys have been banged up all year. Hang your hat on it even more. You've already tried to get out with that. Say injuries are the reason we're in this spot.
Yeah.
Hang your hat on it even harder and say we're shutting them all down. They're all more banged up than anyone knew. That's how good we are at hiding this shit. And just
send another letter.
Lose every game. They might do it with their fucking best, to be honest, the way we're watching these last 6 games. Just lose every single game the rest of the season. It's such a weird place to be. I hate it. But if they do the wishy-washy thing, it's going to be the leafiest thing ever to just be bad enough to come close, but be still good enough to not quite get over the finish line. And that Boston pick will go to them, and it'll be someone special that we'll watch for 20 more years. I mean, that's how things go here, doesn't it? I'm just sour. I'm bitter. There's just no light at the end of the tunnel. And
no,
again, if you could get behind some kind of effort or something, some reason for it, but no, it's just heartless efforts and zero pride. They don't seem to even care what team they're playing for, what league they're in. They don't seem to have any shame.
There's always aftermath from the deadline. I would love to know if the Leafs at least called Boston and said, hey, what would it take to get our first round pick back? They would have had to have that phone call, right? Especially with the Ekman-Larsson rumors and Boston looking maybe to potentially buy. And I know they're hovering around a playoff spot, but you would have to think that call it was made, right?
You know what? We were wrong. We need Carlo back. We'll give you Minton and your first back. Let's just go back to the way things were. Oh, it's a bad looking trade, man. It will cost Tree his job.
It's fireable, dude. That trade alone is fireable. And again, admittedly, not to speak for you, I like the trade. I liked Carlo. I don't know who this guy is playing for the Leafs. That's not Brandon Carlo, the guy I saw on Boston. On top of that, also fireable is the Philadelphia trade. I don't think much of Gurbankin. I think he's a bottom 6 guy. Congrats. He hits some guys. He's funny in the media. I don't think he's an amazing player, but you still give up a first rounder. I mean, conversely, the same guy a year later just went for a 3rd round pick, potentially becomes a 2nd round pick. It's poor management. That's what it is. And results-oriented business, and I think there's been a bunch of those along the way that are fireable measures. There really is. Like, if you want to go deeper, the players they picked up last summer, Michelli, a 3rd round pick for Michelli. I was losing my mind tuning into the game, and I hope it wasn't a fucking showcase, but I saw Easton Cowan on Wednesday night on the top line with Nylander and Matthews. Then I tune in on Thursday, and I'm like, is that Matthias Michelli on the top? Nobody has any clue what the hell they're doing. I hope that wasn't a showcase, a last-ditch effort to show the rest of the league, this is what Matthias Michelli can bring your roster. Here you go.
Well, I mean, the more I think about it, the more I think Tree is gone, and they just had to give him the trade deadline because no one else has any amount of experience. You think you can just give Pridham or Donor? He's never made a call to a GM. He's never made a trade. They're just thinking we have to get out from these rentals. We have to get some assets back. This guy's got the most experience. Hopefully he can do it. But at the end of the day, the damage is done and he's not going to be running this team anymore. But we got to give him the deadline because there's no other options. And we've made this decision to become sellers so quick towards the deadline because of the dog shit fucking performances after the Olympics. I still think he's going to get canned, even though he ran the deadline. And all the stuff we're talking about is why. Like, again, we liked it at the time. I liked the Carlo trade too. I was ready to win now. I was excited about the team. I thought if they put it together and found some grit and some intensity, they could maybe get by some of these teams. And you know what? If they were one game 7 away, or if they closed that door on Florida, I mean, hell, the history books could look a lot different. I think they would run through Carolina, and I think they would. Could have been different, but it's not. Woulda, shoulda, coulda, man. That just doesn't matter anymore. The only thing that matters is the results, and Tree's at the helm while this place turns into a nightmare, and I just think there's going to be a lot of changes coming.
Final point on Treliving, I think he lacks creativity too. Like, Colorado is a perfect example. If you recall last year's deadline, they went for it like they do every year, like the Maple Leafs do and have for the last 9 to 10 years. They're like, okay, we're going to get Charlie Coyle. We're going to get Brock Nelson. They realized really, really quickly, Charlie Coyle's not a fit here. We're moving him in the summer. We're going to take those assets. We're going to reapply them. We're going to bring back Nazem Kadri. That's creativity. Has there been anything Brad Treliving's done in his tenure as the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs that screams creativity, outside the box thinking? If anything, I think he's been too patient, just waiting and waiting, and things are going to get better. And I understand like the veteran qualities that he brings to the table. I talked about it earlier. I like the experience factor, but I think in this instance, I don't think this is a job you can have patience, man. You have to go after it. Whereas we found out really clearly this year, you're caught chasing the season. That's exactly what happened. They started chasing the season in November and never caught up.
Yeah, and it's just he was just too reluctant to make moves, and it's just such a big deal when the Leafs make a move that, again, it's just a bigger stage, and you got to be more sure, and you probably double, you probably overthink it and second guess yourself. But yeah, he didn't do enough. He didn't have those creative moves. He didn't flip this into that. He didn't move up. The guy that starts with a toothbrush and ends up, trading up and trading up and trading up until he never got any of those trades where it's like, oh yeah, you're holding all the cards. It was always, fuck it, let's just take a swing and hope it works with Carlo and with these guys. And it hasn't worked. And I think his goose is probably cooked because of it, man.
Doc Raiden, not a fan of Brad, but to be honest, the walk get on the Marner deal was creative, I guess.
Get something back. And again, a guy comes to Toronto and is just a fucking shell of himself.
Oh,
Carlo.
Dude, and that's
really?
What is
that
with
Brandon
that too,
Carlo
by
playing?
the way? What is that? What is with that too? Like I not to put you on the spot, like prime examples, Nick Waugh. Like I feel shitty, but I came on this podcast and you know me, I watch a lot of out of market hockey. That is not the same Nick Waugh that I saw with the Vegas Golden Knights. Like he was so versatile, could play up and down your lineup, use this frame, gets to Toronto, loses identity. Ditto for Brandon Carlo. Ditto for Scott Laughton. Is the market just too big? Are we just like, what's the answer? Why can't we ever get a player and it's like, oh my God, he exceeds expectation, right?
Dude, from day one on this podcast, I said, like, I remember vividly the different feeling it was to play for the Leafs. And that's part of the honor, and that's part of the excitement, and that's part of how incredible it would be to win there. But why has no one done it in that long? It's not the media. It's just that it's such, you're so exposed. Everyone is looking at you. Everyone is critiquing you. Everyone is criticizing you. And it's tough, man. Like, you grip your stick a little bit. You can be in other markets and you can have that shootout for the winner, fucking puck game on your stick, and you just bury it because you have the whole time. But now you just feel that collective, everyone that's looked, everyone that's asked a question, everyone that's honked their horn at you, everyone's that, like, you drive to the rink, you come down Lakeshore, down the Gardner, and you see those fucking lights on the top of that building, and there's just this electricity and this vibrance and this buzz, and people are going to the pubs and people are wearing their jerseys and everyone's got a hat on. It's like, holy fuck. And that's part of the unbelievable, luxury of playing for the Leafs, is how cool that is. But everyone's human, and it's harder to perform under pressure than it is when there's no pressure. I mean, that's just a fact of life. And I'm not making excuses. I'm not saying anything. I'm not even making any specific point, except for it's big. It is a spotlight. The lights are bright. It's harder to perform under pressure. And what we were talking about earlier, how many guys come here and aren't themselves? How many guys leave here and pop off? It's fucking harder to do special things. As soon as you start gaining momentum, everyone's talking about you. And what's so famous? You're building statues. You're building statues for a guy. Oh, the parade's back on. Because as soon as things go well, everyone is all over you. And you're like, holy fuck. And then it's hard to continue that. And then as soon as you stutter step, I told you he wasn't the guy. I knew that wasn't the truth. And then everyone's tearing you down. And yeah, and the media is part of that. But it's just the size of the market and the care. And I remember when I started this podcast, I said, I'm not going to forget that that it's harder to fucking win in Toronto because of that. And I don't know why people roll their eyes so much, man. Look at the mass audience. Look at the scrutiny. Look at the coverage. Look at the appetite for anything that is Toronto Maple Leafs. It translates to the players, and it's hard to perform here. Nick wasn't even close to the guy I thought he was. He was a fucking warm body for his tenure in Toronto. Carlo, I thought we were getting this guy that controls the play, a big body, good stick, right-hander, fucking see him all the time and notice him, and he's got the right spot. He's fucking just scrambling around. Like, he wasn't even close to worth the trade. But at the time, you always hope, and that's the one thing Leafs fans have, is hope for this is our year. And it's probably to their detriment, but they're passionate fans and they care and they want to believe and they want to be positive. And that's why every time something goes right or you get a guy, you hope, and this is our year, and you wish for the best and you want it so bad. And fuck, man, it's just, it is what it is. And yeah, Nick was another example of that. Comes here and he's fucking warm body, man. And now he's going to go off and probably be a factor for the Colorado Avalanche. It's just the way it is. But I don't know, not to get negative, but I mean, Jesus, there's not a lot of positive things coming out of the Toronto Maple Leafs organization right now.
Saw a picture of Nick Waugh at the morning skate in Dallas, Colorado, Dallas. That should be an amazing matchup tonight there in the Central Division. He was smiling. I would love to get like an exclusive with Nick Waugh. You go from Austin Matthews, Willie Nylander to Nate McKinnon, Cale Makar, Gabe Landeskog. What's that like?
I bet he's happy. Fuck, I would be.
That's why he's smiling.
Yeah, man. I don't know. It takes a special breed to come here.
I got to credit the Leafs. Just a wrap on that part. I got to credit the Leafs to get a first and a fifth for Nicolas Waugh, who was like you put it perfectly. He was a warm body. I noticed him maybe 6 times all year, and you got a first and a fifth. Like, if I were to tell you 3 months ago, the Leafs would be sellers at the deadline, they'd move Bob McMann, Scott Laughton, and Nicolas Waugh, and Nick Waugh would get the biggest return. You would think I was fucking dumb, you know? Like, so again, it's a masterful job. I think of the 3 deals, I like the return of that one, certainly.
It's what keeps this from being extremely disappointing, right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. And for what, blame that on Tree if you want, blame the market, blame timing, blame whatever you want. It is what it is. Again, it is nice to move on. Once that narrative started coming around, I was like, yeah, why don't we move on from Nick Waugh? Like, what the hell are you holding on to him for? He hasn't moved the needle one iota, but he's got that pedigree and a cup and the ability. All the reasons that we were happy to get him still exist. He just puts on a Leafs jersey and becomes a warm fucking body. And now he's going to go to Colorado, like I said, and he'll probably be a factor in some way, shape, or form. But at least we got a first out of it. We need a first. It's not going to be a top first. And there's a pretty big difference from the first half of the first round and the second half of the first round. But a first nonetheless, and maybe it'll help the taste in people's mouths from being that much more sour.
At least you got some draft picks to talk about this year and next year, and I think no clarity still on what they're getting for Scott Laughton, what year that draft pick is. But I'm out of gas. I got nothing else to add. We got shows to do next week. It's time now for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. Use code NATION. That's NATION, NATION. Must be 19 or older, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you're someone you know has a gambling problem, visit connexontario.ca. How do you not take Tampa in regulation tomorrow? I've talked to John Cooper a couple times the last couple of days. He's not happy with the way his team's playing. And I said, perfect. You got the Maple Leafs on Saturday. And I don't think Tampa's won since they beat the crap out of the Maple Leafs after the Olympic break. So what a perfect matchup for them. We'll see if Corey Perry, who's back in Tampa, plays in that game, his re-debut with them. I'm going to go off the board. Give me a Pontus Holberg anytime goal. That would be beautiful, wouldn't it?
Hello, Pontus. We have missed you.
Your guy. We do miss him.
Oh, boy. Where is this fucking game? I mean, I think last time we took I'll take the over.
Yeah.
It's plus.
You hit it yesterday.
I did. I'll take the over again. Maybe the Leafs wake up, or maybe they get filled in.
No,
but someone's going to be scoring some goals here tomorrow night. So it seems, wow, it's not that long since it was our first game out of the playoffs. We knew it'd be a test, and they got their fucking heads caved in every single game since, to the point where we are in this complete darkness and despair. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. I sure noticed the give a shit meter of everyone who normally watches intently going way down, which is so disappointing, man. It's such a fun time of year. Everything's thawing, melting. Things are coming alive. Things are growing. Playoff hockey is the greatest thing in the world. It is so shitty we're not going to get to enjoy any from that team. But hey, teams go through it. Forward on. See what you can make of something. Maybe something will start going our way. That's where we're at here, folks. Guys.
Yeah, that's all we got. Thank you for hanging with us for nearly 2 hours here at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. I believe Zach's going to have the Leafs Nation After Dark tomorrow night following Leafs Tampa, so check that out. I just remembered I'm going to that game, so we'll see if the Leafs have a pulse. I guess the Sunwing vacation's over for Oliver Ekman-Larsson back in the lineup. So that's it. That's all we got. Yeah, Rosie, will any big plans for the weekend?
Yeah, man. I got to get to eat, and we have got another playoff game tonight. I am in Cochrane, Alberta. Thank you to the Canalta for lending me this lovely business conference room. Able to bang off 2 hours of a trade deadline show. Sorry for the rants. Sorry for the negativity, but we got to call it like it is on this show, as we always have. And I got to refocus now, get some food in my belly, and get these kids to play with a little bit of intensity, which they have been doing so far this weekend, which is phenomenal. Tough season, and they are playing lights out their ass. We have a real good chance to get in the semifinals tomorrow. So I got to readjust to some more positive things and try to mold some young minds to not play like the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I got a good question on X yesterday, just to wrap. What am I going to do once Rosie gets hired by the Maple Leafs? You know what I said?
They wouldn't make that mistake twice.
No, I said I'm going to upgrade. I'm calling Colton Orr. That's my first call, actually. That's what I said.
Or is he said he doesn't like podcasts.
He doesn't. Yeah, I interviewed him a couple years back. We got some interviews to do at some point in time. But good stuff, man. Shitty times. I feel like I'm still in shock over the season, where like normally we're ramping up for the playoffs. It's deadline time. It was a very positive time from a Leafs fan perspective. Now it's like the stretch drive. And yeah, that's where we're at with this team. So I'll talk to you on Monday, okay?
Yeah, sounds good. I'll be here. I don't know. I just hope they tank, man. It's embarrassing enough. What's another level of embarrassment? Just openly tank, man. Who gives a shit? At least we could laugh at that draft pick, getting it back. It's going to end up being a good one. You mark my words. But lots of time to break that down. We'll see you on Monday for a full week of Leafs Morning Take.
It would be very poetic because we had Keaton Verhoff on the show like 3 months ago. And imagine he ends up becoming a Toronto Maple Leaf. That would just be music to our ears. Okay, folks. That's it. That's all. At the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Thank you to producer Vic. Thank you to Jay Rosehill. I'm Nick Alberga. Have a fantastic weekend. Take care, everybody. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.